Okay, once more I want to show you a game from this book. The game is from chapter 7 on Tal, that is the greatest attacker of all, and here he says the following, which I hope you will find interesting. No? The God of War. Last year I wrote a book on Tal, revisiting the games of perhaps the most extreme hawk of all time. In this chapter we take a look not at his most beautiful games, but at two of his shadier examples, when he just increased the complication levels to the point where both his opponents became disoriented and blundered. Honestly, we have just seen the game with Botvinnik. I love it. I love that game, and I also, if there were some mistakes and dubious moves, honestly, I love that game. It was a beautiful game, a beautiful attacking game with a final attack which came out of nowhere. And I do believe that if you didn't know that black was Botvinnik, you could have thought that that game was played by a black player that was 1600 instead of a world champion. Okay, so this game was played in Kharkov in 1953 against Isaac Birchberger, white, and Mikhail Tal, black. d4, knight f6, c4, c5, d5, e6. Tal popularized the Benoni with many stunning wins in the 1950s. Knight c3, e takes d5, c takes d5, d6, e4, g6, knight f3, bishop g7, bishop d3. Today the author writes they play h3 to avoid the bishop g4, so it's more popular h3 than bishop d3, okay? But here we are in 1953, okay? 1953. Castle, castle, knight a6. Black's light square bishop is often a problem piece in the Benoni. So today most players opt for bishop g4. Okay, sorry, I mistake light square piece. So it seems that this is the one that is kind of bad, like in the French. And so that's why they want to play bishop g4, because after h3 they take, and so they get rid of this bad bishop. So sorry for the mistake in pointing out the wrong bishop. Knight d2. It seems again h3 was better. Knight b4, bishop e2, and he could have also gone here and keep an eye on this with ideas of attack, okay? Rook e8, a3, knight a6, rook e1, knight c7, queen c2. It seems also in this case this is not a good move. It was better to play a4. Okay, I mean, again, sometimes it's difficult to find a move like a4, right? Who knows? Okay, so at this point, because he said about a4, we know that probably black should have played b5, because a4 means that he wants to control the square. But how is b5 correct when there are two pieces on it, right? Oh, okay, there is a note from the author that in fact says b5 was the move to play, because after bishop takes b5, knight takes b5, knight takes b5, bishop a6, knight c3, queen b6, black as a compensation. so probably in the activity of the pieces. Instead, in the game, he played rook b8. But again, it's easy to judge a game using an engine from 2020 maybe, or 2015, and 60 years later compared to this game. So sometimes we are a little too harsh in our judgment, right? a4, b6, and knight b5. Again, it seems the fight was around the square b5. So that's why we buy books like this, because they teach us about the fight for some squares, and so they give us some kind of big knowledge that it's very difficult to obtain. Okay, so let's see. a6, knight takes c7, queen takes c7, and rook a2. The rook is more actively placed and lifted to a3, so it was better to have it here. Okay. Queen e7, f3. Would you believe this f3 is a mistake? This move bolsters e4 at the cost of losing control over h5. Which allow Tal to seize the initiative with his next move. Wow! And guess the next move? Knight h5. Notice that there is a famous game by Fischer in which played this kind of knight h5 move. It would be interesting to know if this game is the inspiration for Fischer knight h5. It's really something to watch about, okay? And probably I will write a message to the author, because this is kind of important. Okay, let's continue to watch the game. After knight h5, please, knight f1, f5, bishop d3, f4. This f5, f4, it's similar to the King's Indian, right? Allora, let's see what he says. Now black's pieces gain access to e5, and this enables the plan g6, g5, and g5, g4. The position begins to resemble the one in the game Polugajewski-Nedzmedinov. Polugajewski-Nedzmedinov, I think it was game number 1 or number 2 of this book. Let's see, because I remember I saw it. Okay, seems I cannot find it, but it's real. It's in this book. Okay, let's see what happens next. G4, wow. Boom. This violent attempt to eject the knight or break up the bind loosens his king's pawn cover, obviously. So at this point, black played bishop d4, but it seems it's even stronger to play this move, queen h4. So eventually, just check it out. So bishop d4, king h1, queen h4, rook e2, bishop h3, sorry, not bishop h3, queen h3. The threat is obviously the checkmate on f1, rook g2, and here there is a funny move by Tal, and here it says, he plays queen takes f3. Here it says, in chaotic situation, Tal sacrificed not because his idea was inherently sound, but more from the desire that it was. This risky venture, which is so tempting in the abstract and so distressingly demanding of details for white in the immediate, wasn't strictly necessary. Okay, black could have attacked in safety with knight f6, and here he gives a line. Let's see what happens. Knight d2, good move. Obviously, the thing was, if you take here, you're going to lose because there is rook take h4, try e4, and the threat is obviously rook e1 or bishop h3, and in any case black wins. Okay, so that's why you cannot really take this. So knight d2, queen e3, knight f1, queen f3, and here, if you are brave, try to see what happens after this move. Okay, probably not so good. Okay, not so good. So knight f1, queen f3, yeah, knight d2, and here this is obviously a draw offer because you repeat, and here Tal played an incredible move, which is bishop takes g4. So the author writes, before this moment, black's bishop led a mostly uneventful life. The text move informs us that at most attacks tend to be expensive, but Tal's idea is more an emotional sentiment than a financial one. If the computer says the queen sacrifice is unsound. But for a human, it proved to be virtually impossible to safely navigate the defense. Tal is in his element, since white pieces aren't organized in any familiar geometric pattern. Okay, so this is really interesting, right? Let's see what happens. Knight takes f3, bishop takes f3, h4, good move, rook f8, also good move, because obviously, and now there is a blunder by white. The blunder is bishop e2. A single confused moment for white is all it took to make it game, set and match. Tal's vision impaired opponent predictably makes a stomach-churning blunder. Now events begin to resound with facile ease to Tal's wishes. Now, can you find what was the right move for white? Pause the video, try to think. For those who don't like to pause the video, the right move, it seems it was b3. And here there is a kind of long line which goes up to move 37, which means 6 moves that you have to calculate. Probably even more, because generally the computer immediately erases all the things that are not really good. Now, how do you continue with black? With black you continue with knight g3 check. The odd thing about Tal's window is that we have no sense of how he righted a wrong in his position. What we understand is that all is suddenly well in black's camp. King h2, bishop takes g2, king takes g2, and knight takes e2. Okay. So what do you think it happens here if white takes the knight? What do you think it happens if white plays this move? What is that the move that is played by black? Clearly f3. Queen takes f3, rook takes f3, king takes f3, rook f8, Not only is black up a pawn, but also white's remaining pieces remaining hopelessly dormant. So, as we can see, the difference between the two armies is this is out of the game. We are at move 36. This still haven't played a move in 36, so I don't know. There is clearly a problem, right? King g3, bishop e5, queen, king g2, and bishop f4, and this is over for white. And you say, why? The author gives the following line: rook a1, a5, b3, bishop takes, rook takes, and at this point, boom, and red takes a second pawn, and the game is over. Why? Because we have 2, 4, 6 against 4 pawns. It's easy probably to create a pass pawn, and definitely at Tal's level it is not difficult to win an endgame like this. I hope you enjoyed the book by Cyrus Lakdawala, Chess for Rocks. I think the games are really good because they teach us a lot about chess, and if we love to see the games on a chessboard, this is clearly the book to go for, because it's full of interesting games, many played by Lakdawala himself, and not all of them won. So that is really interesting. Thank you very much.